Hi, I'm Chris McBrien, a Gen Xer, and the pop culture from my generation is awesome.
And I'm Yancy Eaton, a millennial, and the pop culture from my generation is dope.
Episode 59, the best Christmas movies and TV specials. I'm Chris McBrien. This is Pop Goes Your World, the pop culture podcast for the generations. Yancy Eaton is in the house as always. Yancy, I wanted to share a story if I could. Would that be okay?
Yeah, sure.
Since we're talking about Christmas stuff on the show this week. Okay, so my son, I've talked about him before on the podcast. He's 8 years old, okay? So a couple months ago, he saw this watch at the store, and he really wanted to buy this watch. And so I told him, okay, if you want to buy this watch, you have to save up your money. And you have to save it up. And the only way you're going to save up money is, you're going to have to do some jobs. So I went through and I made like a list of extra jobs that he has to do. So he has to go in the backyard and clean up after the dog. And I pay him money for that, a couple bucks. And he empties the dishwasher. He's raked leaves. He's been shoveling snow. It's Canada, And every time he does these jobs, I give him a set amount of money. And he's been working and working and working and saving and saving and saving. And he puts all of his money in this money wallet that he has. And like I say, he's working really hard. He really wants this watch. So anyway, day finally comes. He's got enough money in his money wallet that's saved up to go and buy this watch. Okay. So I make a quick stop at the mall, on the way there. I'm a multitasker, Yancy. My wife's always got me stopping, to run errands, right? So go figure. Anyway, so we're leaving the mall and we're heading over to the watch store. And there's a man outside the mall entrance and he's holding a sign. He's asking for money, right? And it says he's got something on his sign. It says please help, Merry Christmas, right? So we're walking out of the mall toward the truck and I can see my son. He's looking at this guy. Mm-hmm. And we get in the truck and we start pulling out of the parking spot and I can tell my son is in the back seat and he's looking over at this guy. So I stopped and I said to my son, is there anything you want to talk about? Is there something on your mind? And he says, Dad, I'm sad. I said, why? He said, I'm sad for that man. So I said, do you want to go talk to him? And he nods. So I pull the truck over and we get out and we walk over to this guy. I kind of hang back a little bit, I let my son walk up to him. And he walks up to the guy and he reaches in his money wallet and he takes out the watch money and gives it to the guy.
Really?
And this guy's reaction was just incredible. He was incredibly thankful. And he just came to life. He was like, "Oh, Merry Christmas!" And what have you been good all year, young man? What did you ask Santa for? And I think it almost felt like the time that he spent just talking to my son was as special to him as any money that he got out of it. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Christmas is a special time to me. It always has been. I love Christmas. And for me, it's all about giving, not receiving. And I tell you what, if I didn't understand that before, my son taught me a lesson. That's for sure.
Isn't that nice, though, just getting that affirmation that your son is just inherently decent? You know what I mean? That doesn't have to be taught for him to have empathy for others. He just kind of has it. And I sure hope that you still bought him that watch when you guys went inside. But
it's going to be under the tree.
Alas, a Christmas present.
It's going to be under the tree. I thought about that and I thought, okay, and I, of course, praised him. And the thing is, too, as a parent, a lot of times you find yourself questioning, am I doing the right thing? Am I doing this right? And then sometimes you get an affirmation like that and it just it made me feel so good. So, anyway, I went back and got the watch and it's going to be underneath the tree from Santa with a note explaining to him that he did a good deed and then he got the watch. So it's almost like a win-win-win. Everybody got a win out of this one. I think it was good. I had a colleague actually that I had kind of shared this with, and they said, it's just awful. I shouldn't even say it, but I'm not going to mention any names. But they said, the guy's just going to use it to spend the money on booze, And I thought, okay, so even if he does, if that gives him some sort of respite from his pain, or if it gives him some little joy in his day that's otherwise a crappy day, I don't care. I don't care. What do I care? My son learned I learned a lesson from my son. My son, showed me a lot about himself. That guy got something out of it, whatever it was. And, my son's going to get a note from Santa Claus, under the tree as a result. So I'm okay with it, I don't know. Is that crazy or?
It's not crazy at all. I grew up in a big family, and I wouldn't say that we were like dirt poor or anything, but there were times where it was extremely financially trying. And despite like the challenges that we did have, having 4 siblings, and my mom was a stay-at-home mom, my dad worked, but there's a lot of mouths to feed. We still were all like taught at a very, very young age that you were always open and giving and generous with your money and with your time. And even now, like if I don't have cash on me or something, I'll always ask people if they're hungry. If you're legitimately hurting or needing something and I don't have cash on me, I'll find a way to feed you, because I've been hungry before and it sucks. But that whole spirit of just like giving, was the guy probably going to go buy booze with it? Perhaps. But one of the beauties of like giving openly and with an open heart is that you don't have to worry about what people are doing with that. Some might say that's it creates a culture of enablement, or I don't know. I don't really think that it's up to us to be the moral like arbiters of other people and how they give out their money. But I think it's just nice if you're able to do things for people who need help, then you just do them and hope for the best.
Well said, my friend. Anyway, I just wanted to share that, and it's not pop culture related or anything, obviously, but it did have to do with Christmas. So anyway, you want to get started?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's go.
I was like, oh my God, that was incredible.
Okay, so we got the millennials' take on it.
It's weird.
We might get to Scorched Earth yet.
But you often have the textbook dancer.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
You've been doing a lot of stuff from the 80s, a lot of comedies.
Holiday Rap by MC Micro G and DJ Swen.
So this wasn't a film that I grew up with.
It's boring as
I think I know that. Could you sing us a few bars?
What the living hell am I watching? Okay, so this week we are going to be running down our top. We decided to kind of amalgamate things, and we could do movies or TV specials for Christmas, because Christmas is a special time of year, as I mentioned. For me, it certainly is. And every year when Christmas rolls around, man, I love watching all those specials and all those movies over and over again. So we decided to go through our top 5. Do you want to start us off? Why don't we start at 5? We'll go to the number 1, as we always do. Yancy, what's your number 5 favorite Christmas movie or TV special?
Yeah, so really quickly, the progression that we went, you and I texting back and forth, just trying to decide on a show topic. Initially, it was like, yeah, we could just do like Christmas movies, or do you just want to do Christmas specials? And then I was thinking about it, I'm like, well, wait, I honestly, you remember many episodes, Chris, whenever we were doing like the greatest movie soundtracks of all time?
Oh, yeah.
And I referenced Interstellar.
With Sammy Reed, right?
Yeah, with Sammy. And I mentioned Interstellar, and you're like, that's not a soundtrack, that's a score.
Right.
And it was
more just to try and burn you than anything else, but it's
right.
But
yeah. but a part of you was 100% correct, right? And I'd never actually I never really processed that in my head, that there was actually 2 distinct things, and that was the name of them. Just like whenever you mentioned that, I was like, wait, I have to think about like what is actually a Christmas special, because I don't really remember like seeing or watching something like live on TV as a Christmas special. And after I go doing research, I realized like all of my favorite Christmas movies that I've been watching since I was a child, those were Christmas specials that have just been readapted and put on DVD. And I've just been led to believe that these were like straight to DVD releases or something, when they're actually Christmas specials, like you said. So right. That's a really long-winded intro into this. But
well, before you jump into number 5, then how about this? Because should we maybe define what is a Christmas movie? Because I saw an interesting, our buddy Mike Gianella on Twitter, obviously
I'm aware.
Great guy. He had a really good debate going. You obviously saw it, did you? Where he was saying like, what is a Christmas movie? What isn't a Christmas movie? And he was making some really good points about how if Christmas is an integral part of the plot, then therefore it's a Christmas movie. And if you took Christmas out of the movie, would the movie still be the same? If it would be, then it's not necessarily a Christmas movie, right? So he made some good points. So should we like lay some ground rules as to what construes a Christmas movie and what doesn't?
I actually didn't see this thread with Mike. Mm-hmm. I like where he's going with this. And let me just ask this real quickly. Did he reference Die Hard as like a Christmas movie? Because I know that's like one of the most polarizing, is it a Christmas movie or not, movies of all time.
He did. There was some debate about that, and I don't know. There was a lot of debate from a lot of different points whether or not it was, because I think the point ultimately in the thread was, well, if you took Christmas out of it, it would still be terrorists in a building, so it's all good. I don't know. You could argue it either way, right? So, but anyway, it's just some food for thought. But we can just get started. So start with your number 5, and we'll work our way up. What do you got?
Okay, so number 5 for me, as with most of these picks you're going to see from me tonight, they're pretty chalky. As a general rule, I'm a bit of a curmudgeon when it comes to Christmas. Not that I I don't like spending time with my family. I do love all those things. I I work in retail and retail management, and most of the joys of the holiday season are completely stripped away from you. You get like a bastardized form of Christmas because you work every single day but Christmas Day, and then you're back in at 2 o'clock in the morning the next day so people can return all the gifts that they just told everybody they were so thankful for the next day. They can't even wait until the weekend's over. But it just kind of gives you like a skewed, slightly pessimistic view on the holidays. And, I try to avoid Christmas decorations. My wife and I, to this day, we've been married almost 7 years, and we've never had a Christmas tree in the house. We just don't put up decorations. We don't exchange gifts. And it's, like I said, it's not even like I don't love my wife or I don't like spending time with her, but I just don't get into it as much. So like I couldn't name a bunch of movies as far as like Christmas movies and Christmas specials go that mean something really, really sentimental to me. I kind of gravitated towards ones where I can always remember watching them with my family. My mom is a Christmas nut. Like she literally puts up 4 or 5 Christmas trees. She has boxes and boxes full of Christmas ornaments and stuff. But I cannot get a concise thought out tonight, Chris, without rambling really, really bad. And I know you're probably staring at the clock, so let me just get to it.
No, it's okay.
Number 5 for me is A Christmas Story. I actually didn't realize that this movie was made in 1983. Yeah. I just always remember it as being such an older movie. I honestly thought it was made in the 60s or 70s.
Well, because it's set like in the 50s or something, right?
Yeah, it was set in the 1940s from the research that I did. And like I said, I guess that's by design. It's almost like with Fargo, where nobody really knows what the time frame is for Fargo, or like even Napoleon Dynamite. It doesn't explicitly say what time it is, but you're just pulling off of context clues to see. I think it's in Indiana, and it's roughly in the 1940s, like late 40s to early 50s and stuff. But I just think it's a perfect Christmas story. No pun intended, just because it shows the relationship between he and his mom, how his mom is, super loving, and he's kind of a mama's boy, but he's also trying to like break out away from that, like, that mama's boy facade. And, he's got the little brother, the little dorky brother that reminds me of my relationship to me and my older brother. The bully at school, what's his name? Furcus, or there's just so many things that I find super endearing to it. It's one of those films where I don't ever actively look to watch it, but every time it's on TV, especially during the holidays, obviously, I'm going to sit down and watch all of it and just really, really enjoy it. So super, super long. I'll try to keep the next one short, but number 5 for me is A Christmas Story.
That is a good one. And I would mention a couple honorable mentions, and that would be in it. It doesn't make my top 5, but it's close. And one of the reasons why that movie is near and dear to me was because part of it was shot, some of the exterior shots were done in St. Catharines, Ontario. And I went to school in St. Catharines. I went to university there. And the school that you see. I did not know that. Yeah, the school that you see is in St. Catharines. It was right around the corner from where I lived. So I'd walk by it almost every day and say, oh, there's the school from A Christmas Story. So I was like that. It was sort of like a Canadian type production, for lack of a better thing, because Bob Clark, did it. But that movie was a good one. And Melinda Dillon and Darren McGavin were so good in that movie. Man, oh man, they were good as the parents. So yeah, that's an honorable mention for me. A couple other honorable mentions I'll throw out before I get into my top 5. A Charlie Brown Christmas just missed, and that's going to disappoint some people. I really like that a lot, but it just missed. I also liked Scrooged with Bill Murray. The 1951 Alastair Sim A Christmas Carol is just so good. And then a couple other fun ones. The Happy Days Christmas special when Fonzie rode the wooden motorcycle. And of course, one from your generation, Yancy, that I've always liked is the South Park where Mr. Hanky the Christmas Boo. There's something about that I remember the first time I saw that, and the kids go and meet him for the first time, and then he's like, just let me go get my toothbrush. And I'm like, why does he need a toothbrush? He's like, oh jeez. There's something about that I like a lot. So those are all some of my honorable mentions. But my number 5. Oh, Yancy, I don't know if you've ever heard of this thing before. It's the Star Wars Holiday Special. Have you ever heard of this before?
I believe you've referenced it in the past. I've never actually watched it.
Back in 1978, Yancy, let me tell you, there was nothing bigger than Star Wars. When it came out, the year before in 77, it took over pop culture. It was just something to be a part of back then. Anyways, you can imagine how pumped I was when I found out they were coming out with a Star Wars Holiday Special in late 78, right? Right. Well, just hold the phone for a second there, young man. This one makes my list not because it's awesome, but instead because it's so bad. It was, and you know how
for you that's almost a prerequisite.
Good. You know how much I love campy, cheesy stuff, And let me tell you don't get much campier and cheesier than the Star Wars Holiday Special. You can go ahead and look it up. It's available on YouTube in its entirety, so you can go and watch it, Yancy. When we're done the podcast, watch it. Like, you are just going to be in shock. It's sort of the stuff of legend in the Star Wars universe, and not in a good way, because it's basically about Chewbacca, and Chewbacca's trying to get to his home planet. to be with his family for Life Day. It's some Wookiee holiday or something like that. And like Princess Leia's in it. She sings a song. B. Arthur runs the bar at Mos Eisley. Yes, B. Arthur from the Golden Girls. And she sings a song in it too. And oh man, I think probably the only thing that's really good about this whole mess is that Chewbacca's son at one point watches a cartoon. And it's a Star Wars, kind of a Star Wars related cartoon, and Boba Fett is in it. It's the first time Boba Fett makes an appearance in the Star Wars universe. Other than that, it's just a big hot steaming mess. But let me tell you, it's the stuff of lore. It's cheesy. It's campy. And so for that reason, it makes my list. What's your number 4?
So that's interesting. It's almost like what's the saying? It's like pizza and sex. Like even really bad Star Wars is still good just because it's Star Wars. You know what I mean? Is it is it one of those things?
Yeah, it is. It is, and I agree that that's part of it. And the other part of it too is it's become such lore in the Star Wars world. And the thing was, I was there and watched it when it came out. I was excited when it came out and I watched it. And so the thing with is that Star Wars was so magical because the special effects in it were just bigger than life at the time. And it was just so good. And you watch this holiday special and it's just so bad. The special effects, it looks like they had $50 left in the budget and said, hey, let's make a show. Like it was so bad. But I was there for it. So that's part of it too, I guess. So anyway, what do you got for number 4?
Number 4 for me, I think a lot of people would regard as maybe their first or second of all time. It's really, really rated highly. If you look online on like Rotten Tomatoes and any pop culture site you can think of where they'd have these kinds of lists, I probably watched it maybe 10 times. Maybe every other year I'll see it on TV, and it's a Wonderful Life from 1946. Yes. What I like about this movie, it's such a departure from a lot of other Christmas movies that you see, where a lot of those are overwhelmingly like happy. It's just about putting in Christmas themes, but not necessarily talking about like the importance of just gratitude. And there's such a darkness to this. Like Finn Capra, he does such an amazing job just making like his life so dire. And there's a lizard running across my desk. I'm sorry, it's making a ton of noise.
There's snow on the ground here in Canada, and we don't have lizards. That's just so incredible.
Yeah. Cool. Anyways, I'm sorry. He like scurried across the mic. That's so weird. But anyways, I just love how it sets it up to where George he's so depressed. He's seriously contemplating suicide. It's something that there was a stigma attached to suicide. There still is a social stigma that's attached to that. And for them to make that like be at the forefront of a film back in the 1940s, coming right out of World War II, especially like the timing and everything of it, it's just it's like a deeply real, wonderful, beautiful movie. This is one of those films I think where black and white, it being in black and white, added so much to it. And yes. I'm not sure if there's a color version of it. I've never seen it. I imagine there's a way for them to restore it or do whatever. But I feel like this is one of those films where it just adds so much to it. It actually being in black and white, because you're basically forced to focus on such simple things, and there's so much emotion that comes out of it's so emotive and evocative to be able to see people and know exactly what they're seeing and thinking. And I don't know, I'm not making a concise point to save my life tonight, but it's just an incredibly, incredibly beautiful film that's about Christmas roughly, but it's also not all rainbows and butterflies. It's dark. It's a man grappling with real life questions, and it's just a classic for me. So that's my number 4. Probably should be higher, but that's where I'm putting it.
Okay, so this doesn't happen very often. So my number 4. It's a Wonderful Life from 1946.
Hey, look at that.
Yeah, we don't agree on too many things, but we definitely agree on this film. I agree with you on everything you said, and there's something to be said, I think. Okay, remember I mentioned before, I just lay it all out there on the podcast. I don't mind saying it. I mentioned before how The Killing Fields is a movie that made me cry. This one did it too. And there's something about the story where because you think about early on in the film and you follow this guy along, he has really big dreams. Remember, he's going to travel all over the world, and he's got that big suitcase, and it's going to have stickers on it from all over the world, and he's going to do this and do that, and he's going to get out of this little town, and he's going to do all these things, but he doesn't. He gives it all up over and over again. He gives it all up for other people. And as a result, that, puts him into the depression, like you mentioned. And then it's that whole sort of study about, at what point, do you have to put your dreams on hold for the betterment of others and things like that? And there's just something about it that just gets me every time. And the other thing that gets me about this movie is, and like obviously I'm happily married, and all that kind of stuff. But I will say one thing: every year on Christmas Eve, I fall in love with Donna Reed all over again. I absolutely am enamored with her performance in this movie, like almost no other performance. I don't know what it is. There's just something about it that I just fall off a cliff every time I watch this movie. I agree. This movie is absolutely magical. It's my number 4 as well. There we go. We agree on one. Unbelievable.
That is kind of unbelievable. I don't know. I really wanted to make it higher, but I was the arbitrary scale that I was using to rank these was just actual impact as far as how many times I've watched it, its relation to me watching with my family and stuff. So it probably, as far as like an actual film, it's probably my favorite of the list that I have. But again, just for continuity's sake, that's kind of how I ranked it. But number 3 for me is something that you actually gave as an honorable mention. It's 1965's A Charlie Brown Christmas.
Yes.
Again, I did not realize that this was even a Christmas special. I didn't realize that Christmas specials were a thing until I started doing some research. And just as a random aside, because I'm apparently full of them tonight.
Hold on a second here. I got to put the brakes on for a second here.
What's that?
So you're telling me, I just want to make sure I'm understanding this correctly. You're telling me that until recently you didn't even realize that there was such a thing as Christmas specials?
Yeah, I'm not trying to be even remotely funny or like intentionally ignorant to this. Like I honestly didn't know. I just assumed that it was just like a Christmas movie, and that terminology didn't even really hold any type of meaning for me whatsoever.
But every year at Christmas, these shows come on. Frosty.
Do they?
And
do
Rudolph.
they? Because
you millennials, I'm telling you, I just tell you, it's just something that's on DVD in the $5 bin at Walmart. Is that all it is? It's not.
Yeah.
Do you get television?
Chris, I don't even have TV hooked up in my house. I don't have cable. I don't have anything like that. I have, subscription services. The only thing that I actually watch live that's appointment viewing for me is sporting events. And that's basically it. Otherwise, I'm not just like turning on the TV the same time every single week to watch like a special show. You know what I mean? Like that's just something that doesn't. It doesn't.
There's very few things in my life that have been continuous from when I was young until when I'm an adult. Like there's a few things because you mature and you grow up, right? But there's been a few things that have been maintained a constant throughout my life, and Christmas specials is one of them. When I was a kid, I couldn't wait until after American Thanksgiving, and I say American Thanksgiving because up in Canada our Thanksgiving is in October. But after American Thanksgiving, all the Christmas specials would start, and I could watch them all on TV on like a Tuesday night. And at 8:00 we would stay up, we would watch these Christmas specials, and it was such a special thing. I don't know. It's so amazing to me that you don't have that. Like I say, that's one constant. A couple other constants I have are things like fish sticks, ice cream sandwiches, and ravioli out of the can. Those are 3 things that I've liked since I was a kid and an adult. But this one is like Christmas specials. I can't believe you don't have those things. Man, or you didn't even know they existed. I tell you, I feel sorry for you.
Yeah. Likewise, I also feel sorry for me and so do many other people.
But anyway, so back to Charlie Brown Christmas.
Just to be a little more brief, A Charlie Brown Christmas is from 1965, and the point I was going to make is that there was apparently like a golden era as far as Christmas specials go. Charlie Brown Christmas came out in 1965. How the Grinch Stole Christmas was in 1966, the year my parents were born. Rudolph, 1964. Frosty the Snowman, 1969. Yep. Like there was a period of like 4 or 5 years where these were like the biggest things going, and decades later, over half a century later, they're still just as popular as they were then. So that was like a really weird time in history where these were like such a big thing, and they basically struck gold on nearly every single Christmas special. Like, do you remember that? Well, you weren't born.
Well, that was a bit before I was born, but I mean, all throughout the 70s and 80s, they played them all the time. Not all of them were hits, though. There was a couple. I remember there's one, it's called Santa Claus is Coming to Town, and it's like about Santa when he was young, and he has got red hair. It's just terrible. The songs in it's like a musical. The songs are horrible. The story's dumb. The characters are awful. It is just terrible. But for the most part, a lot of those other ones, those claymation ones, the animated, they were so good. You're right. A lot of them really hit the mark. But,
yeah. So just to wrap it up, A Charlie Brown Christmas, everybody has seen it, I hope. Linus just delivering the most beautiful answer to, does anybody really know what Christmas is about? It's just beautiful. It's kind of like an animated 1960s version of The Breakfast Club, where you have like this whole cast of characters and they all have different personalities, and it's just showing how they interact with each other or fail to interact with each other. There's all of these different personality types and different motivations and stuff that plays out. But in the end, it's just wrapped up in like this beautiful spirit and meaning of Christmas that I don't know, it's just so iconic. And even though the animation is so dated, I think the way that it is animated makes it special in and of itself. Just like you mentioned, the claymation and stuff. It's like a time capsule to see these cartoons that look like that, and they're still every bit as entertaining as they were at the time. So that's my number 3 is a Charlie Brown Christmas from 1965.
Another thing I would give kudos to the Charlie Brown Christmas, because it's the only one of all those Christmas specials that actually injected a little bit of religious element to it. A lot of the other ones stayed away from it, but that one, and it didn't make it front and center. It didn't dwell on it, but it touched base mostly that I remember with Linus's speech when he's talking about, the angel of the Lord appears and all that. So yeah, Charlie Brown Christmas is a good one. It should have made higher on my list, but I like the cheesy stuff. So speaking of which, my number 3, you already mentioned from 1969. That's Frosty the Snowman. It is, let's just say it's not the greatest animation of all time. It's kind of crappy. Jimmy Durante is in it, and he sounds like he's been chain smoking for 40 years. That guy, I can't believe he's like narrating a kid's Christmas thing, because he just sounds like he's like Frosty the Snowman. It's like, what the hell is this guy? Like, it's scary, for children.
It's scary.
It is. But the voice of Frosty was Jackie Vernon, and he did a really good job. I really liked him in it. But like I say, the animation is pretty crappy. And I remember they came out with this really, really bad sequel in the 80s. The animation was even worse. It was really, really awful. But there's just something about Frosty that I just like with the magician and the rabbit and the magic of, I don't know. I've always liked that one. It's someone I've watched since I was a kid, and my kids have started watching it and they like it too. So it's all the way up to number 3 for me. So on to your number 2.
Number 2 for me, probably my most watched Christmas movie of all time. If you ask my mom what her favorite movie was, I think she would say like Chitty Bang Bang, Tombstone, and Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. There's very few negotiables with my mom. She is the salt of the earth. She's super loving. She does for everybody constantly, and all she wants is for her family to be together. That's literally my parents to a T, the most immaterialistic, completely giving, selfless people I've ever met in my entire life. All my mom wants is for like us kids to come over and be together on holidays, and she just wants to watch Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. And I remember one year I was like 12 or 13 or something, and I was just over it. I was like, I don't want to watch these Christmas movies and stuff. And my mom was like begging me, and I was so immature and like so childish about that. I basically like stormed up my room or whatever, and I didn't watch Rudolph with her. And this sounds so stupid. It's not even talking about the movie specifically, but I don't know, like looking back, like that was like one of the most embarrassing moments of my life, where it's like, mom doesn't ask for anything, but like once a year, can you watch like a freaking movie with her? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just like one of those things you look back when you just feel so petty and childish over. So my mom sometimes listens. If she listens to this, I hope she knows I'm sorry, but Rudolph is obviously classic. You mentioned claymation. We don't really see much of that anymore. Occasionally, like every few years, you'll see like some adult comedy pop up that's, in claymation or whatever. But for the most part, it seems like a kind of like a forgotten art form. It's just a beautiful movie. I don't have a whole lot to say about it. I mean, the Kirby doesn't like to make toys phrase has been uttered in my family literally thousands of times. Like we use that as an inside joke on each other, and the Island of Misfit Toys, and just, I don't know, the whole thing about it, just all the songs, the artwork, everything about it is just so beautiful. And it's, like I said, it's just the one thing that makes me think about like, being a child and having Christmas with all my siblings, and my mom being the first one up. She would always get it before us kids just because she was so excited. I mean, what does that say about like a mom where like she's so excited that like she's the one waking up at 3:00 in the morning because she just can't wait. She just wants her kids to like open presents and stuff. So Rudolph it feels like home for me. It feels like family. So that's my number 2.
And the cool thing I like about Rudolph too is like it does have such a good message. And and I mean the whole idea of he's a misfit, right? And then so he goes and finds his friend. He makes kinship with other misfits, and the whole point is that it's okay if you're a misfit, you can still be loved. I think it's such a good, I just love that one too. So, okay, because we're of different generations, we're often at odds, you and I, with our takes on things. But
occasionally,
I think Christmas is one thing that can bring us together, because my number 2 is Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer as well.
Look at us.
And I agree with you. Hermie wants to be a dentist. He's a misfit. Rudolph has a red nose. He's a misfit. All those toys, the Charlie in the box and everything else. It's so, so good. And Bumble, who doesn't like Bumble, the Abominable Snowman, and Yukon Cornelius throwing up the pickaxe and it goes in the snow and he licks it, and oh man. One thing I watched that, and you mentioned it as a movie. It's an hour special, right? It's a Christmas special. It comes on TV every year, Yancy. You should really watch it. And one of the things I've seen it so many times that there's one part of it that always I always look at it and go, man, that's weird. And so if you get a chance, especially if you watch it on DVD where there's a lot more clarity, when you see Santa Claus, especially at the beginning when he comes out, first of all, Santa Claus is a real because he's like he's mean to everybody, you know. Okay,
you can't say that about Santa Claus.
I know. It'll get beeped out anyway. The censors will beep it. It's all good. But you know, Santa Claus is really, really mean. And the thing is, though, is you look at Santa. I don't know why he's being. You know, one of the reasons why he's probably so mean. If you look really closely, his hands are really, really, really dirty. They're all black. I don't know what. There's something about that scene at the beginning. You look and you're like, what the heck, Santa Claus been doing? Has he been playing with dirt? Like his hands are completely black. I don't know if it's because the people were moving his hands to do the claymation and their hands were dirty. But anyway, it's something, go back, watch it. You're going to go, man, Santa Claus's hands are really dirty. Chris is right. But anyway, that aside, it's number 2 on my list. I notice everything about this crap. Oh, I've seen him so many times, I guess. So on to your number 1. What's your number 1 favorite Christmas movie or Christmas special? Christmas special. Yancy just learned tonight that those things exist. So what would it be? Number 1.
2 really quick honorable mentions.
Sure.
The Grinch Stole Christmas, again from 1966, voiced by Boris Karloff, who at the time I didn't know who Boris Karloff was. And then I used to be, like I told you this, like my whole childhood I was obsessed with Tom Petty. And my brother, we were listening to, I can't remember which album, I think it's Full Moon Fever. But he sings a song called Zombie Zoo, and he talks about like you look like Boris Karloff and you don't even know. And I ended up having to like look up Boris Karloff, and it took me down this rabbit hole where I was like, oh, like he was Frankenstein, and he also voiced the Grinch.
Yeah.
And just kind of weird like hearing that in a Tom Petty song and not knowing what it is. I was just like a kid. I was like, yeah, Tom Petty's cool. I like him. But that was a honorable mention. And Frosty the Snowman, I don't think it's the most inventive. I don't think it's the most creative or the most well animated, but I've seen it like 50 times. And it's one of the first, movies I thought of. So I kind of wanted to mention it. Number 1 for me, this is entirely a Yancy pick. This is not me trying to acquiesce to the listeners or try to, get something that I think other people want to hear. This is purely like a me thing, and it's the Office Christmas Party Special. The show The Office, the United States version, not the UK version. Well documented from the past that I love this show. It's one of my favorite shows of all time. It's like comfort viewing for me. If I can't find something to watch, or if I'm just stressed out or I just want something on in the background, I always gravitate towards this. I've watched it multiple times. What makes this one particular Christmas special so exciting or so funny to me is the Yankee swap that is initiated. Basically, everybody had a Secret Santa, and they decide that it would be more fun if they have a Yankee swap where everybody plays a game. You basically are trading off gifts. There's a whole bunch of stuff that goes on with that where, the love interest, Jim, and, he likes Pam. And so he basically buys her this custom teapot with all these memories and inside jokes and stuff put inside the teapot. And he basically professes his love to her. It's a really, really well done, funny, but also painfully heartbreaking episode because it actually doesn't work out to where, he takes the note back out and all kinds of stuff ensues whenever an iPod is thrust into the gift giving where everybody wants this, $400 iPod, even though the gift limit was $20 or something like that. It's just a really, really good episode. And also, if you could see some of the other Christmas episodes The Office has, like a Benihana Christmas, or they literally have Mongolian themed Christmas parties. It just makes me laugh because every holiday party I've ever been at in work has always been kind of lame, and it's not really even a party at all because it's a corporate setting. It's just hey, there's food here, and there's also super ambiguous happy holiday decorations. You know what I mean? There's not technically a Christmas tree, or there's not actually a menorah. It's just generic holiday, and it does a really good job of captivating that, just how lame corporate parties are. My favorite show, one of my favorite shows of all time. I love all the Christmas episodes, and I guess The Simpsons has some good ones too that could have made an honorable mention. But The Office Christmas Party, I think it's episode 16 or 17 overall from season 1. It's absolutely fantastic. So that's my number 1.
There you go. That's a good Yancy pick. Okay, my number 1 is How the Grinch Stole Christmas. And I'm not talking about that stupid Jim Carrey crap fest from 2000 either.
Is it bad? Is it bad? I haven't seen the Jim Carrey one.
Oh, God, it's awful. It's absolutely unwatchable. It's so bad. But I'm talking about, of course, the 30-minute animated TV special, Yancy, from 1966 with Boris Karloff, as you mentioned. The other thing about it, too, first of all, we talked before about, some of the themes, and these great, sort of uplifting messages. What could be more uplifting at Christmas time than this concept of, this Grinch who steals everything from these people, takes everything, every last crumb that they have, he steals it. And of course, they all come out, they all hold hands and they sing the song. You know,
Well, you know why he stole it.
Fore da hu do re. They sing, and they just love Christmas so much. So
You know why they stole from him, Chris?
what's that?
Or why he stole from them? You know why the Grinch is why he is, right?
Well, that's the thing. I think that Jim Carrey movie kind of went into a backstory on it or whatever, and I don't care. The 30-minute cartoon doesn't go into the backstory. I don't want to know the backstory. That's
It does, Chris. It does. It's because he has a heart 2 sizes too small.
Yes, but his heart grew 2 sizes that day, Yancy. And so it made it such an uplifting. Remember, it broke the magnifying glass. It was so cool. And so many other good things about that. There's Max the dog, like I say, the Mahu Foray song. I love that. And that Thurl Ravencroft was the guy's name. It does the singing. You know, he's got that really deep voice. You know, you're a mean one, Mr. Grinch. He used to do Tony the Tiger back in the 70s and 80s, that guy. He said, you know, they're great, that guy.
Really?
Yep.
Same guy.
Same guy, right? And there's just so many things about that are just the roast beast and everything. And it's just so wacky. And it's got the bizarre Dr. Zeus world of all these gadgets and creatures and people that are involved in it. But at the end, it just has a really big heart. And in fact, yeah, a heart that's 2 sizes too small and then grows 2 sizes. So there you go. So it's all good. Yeah, that's my number one for sure. There's so many good Christmas movies, Christmas specials and stuff like that. I just love Christmas. Christmas is great. I'm gonna have to...
Honestly, Chris, like this, I'm going to consider this a Christmas miracle that you and I had so much overlap. That's actually kind of cool.
It is. It's like it's a Festivus miracle. There you go. Okay, time now for some
Fun with Yancy.
Okay, Yancy, I'm going to challenge you this week, and I'm going to give you some trivia questions. So, what do you think? You think we can handle these?
I'm going to try. I don't know if I'm going to do particularly well. So
Okay, well, we'll do our best here. Okay, Charlie Brown Christmas. We talked about that one, right? You
Right.
like that movie. It's on your list. You love it. So you're going to know this very well. So what traditional Christmas carol does the entire Peanuts gang get together at the end and hum and then eventually sing at the end of the show?
Damn it, Chris.
Snoopy's got the long nose in the mouth. Ooh.
Oh, Joy to the World.
It's Hark the Herald Angels Sing.
That's actually the name of the song.
Yes, you don't know that song? And the parents, of course, don't sing along because if they did, it would be like... Wah, 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 wah. Okay, Rudolph. You mentioned Rudolph and you love Rudolph. So here's an easy one for you. Rudolph had a girlfriend. What was her name?
Oh my God, I can't even remember her name. Let me think about it for a second. Vixen?
No, Vixen. It's because you don't watch these things on TV every year. That's why it's Clarice.
Clarice.
Yes, Clarice. Okay,
Hello,
I'm
Clarice.
going to give you one that's in your wheelhouse, okay? In Elf, you know the movie with Will Ferrell, Elf? It's in your generation.
Yes.
Yancy. Okay. In that movie, Will Ferrell's character delivers a 12-second belch, making it the longest belch in screen history. Yancy, though, what Gen X movie character held the previous record for the longest screen belch at 7 seconds?
Oh my God.
It's a movie that I made you watch.
Was it from Revenge of the Nerds?
Yes, what was the character's name? Oh, you're so close.
I cannot remember his name to save my life.
It was Booger. Come on, Yancy. Jeepers.
With all due
Okay.
respect, Chris, like as soon as I watched that, I was ready to kind of flush it from my memory.
Yeah, you hated that movie. Oh, man, you're so wrong. Of course, you grew up without TV specials. It's just the way you was raised, I guess. Okay, in Home Alone. You know Home Alone. You obviously know that movie. You've seen it many times, I'm assuming.
Chris, as soon as you said that, all of a sudden I feel like I cannot believe I didn't put that in my... Oh my God. What a really blatant omission. That is so bad.
Well, we're bringing it up in the trivia section, so it's all good. You grew up without Christmas TV specials. It's just the way you are. It's all good. So in Home Alone, which actor improvised all of his lines for the movie? Yancy, do you know?
I don't.
I'll give you a hint. He really only had one scene in the movie, but it was a pretty long scene, and he improvised the whole thing, made it up from scratch.
I don't know.
It was John Candy. Remember in the back of the truck when he's going on and on about the band that he's with? And no,
Not ringing a bell, Chris.
have you seen the movie? Have you?
I have seen it. Honestly, I can't even remember John Candy being in it, so like I'm gonna have to go back and look at it.
Jeepers, I tell you, some days I just give up. I get it. It's because you didn't grow up watching TV specials. That's what's wrong. Okay, so the last question is this. So this is actually a debate question. I want to know, what are your thoughts? And you mentioned it briefly before. Is Die Hard a Christmas movie?
Using the criteria we set aside before, if you took Christmas out of it, does it still make sense as a movie? And the answer is yes. So, no, Die Hard is not a Christmas movie.
There you go. There's, like I say, there's a lot of debate flying around. I don't know.
What are your thoughts?
I don't really think it's a Christmas movie either, to be honest with you, because for the exact same reason that you said, if you take Christmas out of the movie, it still stands as a film. If you take Christmas out of Rudolph, the special doesn't exist. You take Christmas out of How the Grinch Stole Christmas, the Grinch doesn't steal anything. It can't exist. But in this case, you're right, you can. So I think for that reason, I would have to lean toward Die Hard not being a Christmas movie. I'm sure we're going to get a lot of flack for it. If you disagree with us, you can always find us on Twitter at Yancy Eaton or at C. McBrien, or you can always go to popcultureworld.com, find all our contact information there, shoot us a mean email or anything like that. But so that kind of wraps up our Christmas special, Christmas movie, Christmas special show this week. Yancy, next week, it's going back to you. It's going back to the millennial generation. It's your turn to throw a movie to me that I will watch between now and next week, and we will come back and we will debate and review the movie. What movie would you like me to watch, young man?
I'm going to go with another super, super obscure dystopian movie.
What a shock. Again, it explains so much this week. This is why you like the dystopian, the post-apocalyptic movies. You didn't grow up watching TV specials every year. That's why. Oh,
yep,
man.
I never had a chance, Chris.
Yeah,
I never had a chance.
So then you grew up liking dystopian films. What dystopian mess do I have to sit through this time?
So it's actually not like an obscure dystopian film at all. It is slightly dystopian, but it's 2008's A Dark Knight. I want to talk about this movie. It's one of the best movies of all time, and it just so happens to like have come out whenever I was an adult for the first time. It's an amazing freaking movie. I know you're gonna like it, but this just gives me an excuse to talk about it. So A Dark Knight from 2008.
A Dark Knight. That's not The Dark Knight, the Batman movie.
The Dark Knight. What did I say? A Dark Knight?
A Dark Knight. So I'm thinking it's like, okay, there's a night that's really, really dark. And so bad things happen because it's so dark. There's no light. So you're talking about the Batman film, the second of Christopher Nolan's Batman films. The Dark Knight. Knight with a K, right? That's don't
play schematic. Don't. This isn't a joke, Chris. You know what? The Dark Knight. Okay?
The Dark
Maybe
Knight.
You're right. You know what I do that with too a lot, Chris?
What's that?
I say Big Lebowski and Great Lebowski as if they're the same movie interchangeably, and it's very, very embarrassing.
That's okay. It's my job to rip you down when I can, because that's what we do. We rip each other. Anybody who doesn't believe it, because we're usually pretty nice to each other. Anybody who doesn't believe it should be in a fantasy baseball league with us, and they'll see how much we rip each other. So it's all good. Okay, I will watch The Dark Knight. And we will come back and we will discuss that movie for sure. It's really good because we'll save this for next week. I obviously grew up watching Tim Burton's Batman. So this is going to be a very interesting take on next week. I'm looking forward to this already. Okay. So make sure you join us again next week. Like I said, find us on Twitter at C. McBrien or at Yancy Eaton. Until then, this is Chris McBrien for Yancy Eaton saying thanks for listening to Pop Goes Your World, the pop culture podcast for the generations.
Thank you for listening to the Pop Goes Your World podcast. Continue the conversation on Twitter at C. McBrien or at Yancy Eaton. Please consider leaving a review for the podcast on iTunes or wherever you download and listen to the show.